If your income isn't low, but your life still feels tight, there's a reason for that. Think about this for a second. It's a Wednesday evening. You just got paid. Direct deposit hit this morning. And for about 4 hours, your bank account looked the way you always imagined it would when you were younger. Then the rent came out. Then the car payment. Then the credit card minimum. Then the student loan. Then you grabbed groceries and somehow spent $180 on things that don't even look like a full week of food. And now it's Thursday, and you're back to watching your account the way you watch a timer counting down. Not panicking exactly, just aware. Constantly, quietly aware. Here's the thing, that feeling has a name. And it's not broke. And it's not irresponsible. And it's not some personal failure that separates you from people who have it figured out. It's something far more structural, far more psychological, and far more common than the financial media ever bothers to explain. My name is Ely, and I spend way too much time thinking about how people in the US experience money psychologically. If you're someone who earns a normal income, maybe even more than you used to, but still doesn't feel financially secure, hit subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. Because what we're going to talk about today is something that almost no one in the personal finance space addresses honestly. The gap between what your income looks like on paper and what your financial life actually feels like from the inside. And before we go anywhere, let me say this. This is not a video about getting rich. It's not about index funds or passive income streams or becoming a millionaire by 35. This is about something more immediate and more personal than that. It's about why financial stress doesn't go away just because your paycheck gets bigger. It's about why earning more often feels, somehow, like not quite enough. And it's about what's actually happening in your brain and your behavior when money feels tight, even though, by most objective measures, it probably shouldn't. Let's start with some math, because the math tells a story that most people don't expect. The median household income in the United States, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, sits at around $74,000 a year. That's roughly $6,100 a month before taxes. After federal and state taxes, Social Security, and Medicare, a single person earning that amount typically takes home somewhere between $4,400 and $4,800 a month, depending on where they live. That's the number that actually hits your bank account. Now let's build a pretty average American life on top of that. Rent for a one-bedroom apartment in a mid-sized U.S. city. Not New York, not San Francisco, just somewhere like Columbus, Ohio, or Nashville, Tennessee, or Raleigh, North Carolina. Runs between $1,300 and $1,700 a month. Let's call it $1,500. That's already 31 to 34% of take-home pay gone before anything else happens. A car payment, because public transportation in most of the country is simply not a realistic option for getting to work, averages around $726 a month according to Experian's 2023 data. Add car insurance. National average is around $167 a month, and you're now at roughly $893 a month just to own and insure a vehicle. That's another 18 to 20% of take-home pay. Groceries for one person run between $300 and $450 a month if you're cooking at home most of the time. Utilities, electricity, water, internet, phone, add another $200 to $300. Health insurance premiums for someone without employer coverage average over $450 a month according to the Kaiser Family Foundation. And even with employer-sponsored coverage, the average employee contributes around $110 a month just in premiums, before any deductibles or copays. Student loan payments, for the roughly 43 million Americans who carry that debt, average around $300 to $500 a month. Added up, on a $4,600 take-home, a completely ordinary American life. Rent, car, insurance, food, utilities, phone, health coverage, student loans cost somewhere between $3,500 and $4,200 a month. That leaves between $400 and $1,100 for literally everything else. Clothing, home repairs, medical bills that insurance didn't cover, a birthday dinner, a flight home for the holidays, an emergency. Now you might be thinking, well, that still leaves some money. There's still something left over. And technically, yes. But here's what most people don't realize. That remaining margin is so thin and so unpredictable that it produces a very specific psychological state. Researchers call it financial scarcity mindset. And it doesn't require being broke to kick in. It only requires feeling like you're one unexpected expense away from losing your footing. And at those numbers, most people are. Here's the thing about scarcity mindset. It's not just a feeling. It's a documented cognitive condition. Sendhil Mullainathan and Eldar Shaffer, two behavioral economists who literally wrote the book on this. The book is actually called Scarcity, found through years of research that when people feel like they don't have enough of something, whether it's money, time, or food, it changes how their brain works. It narrows attention. It reduces what they call bandwidth, the mental capacity available for decision-making, planning, and self-control. People experiencing financial scarcity, even mild financial scarcity, consistently perform worse on cognitive tests. They make shorter-term decisions. They struggle to think about next month, let alone next year. And this happens not because they're less intelligent or less capable, but because their mental resources are being consumed by the constant, low-grade monitoring of their financial situation. And this is the part that most finance content refuses to acknowledge. The advice to just budget better, or cut out the lattes, or track every dollar. All of that advice requires cognitive bandwidth that scarcity itself is already depleting. It's a little like telling someone who is severely sleep-deprived to just concentrate harder. Technically true, practically useless. Now let's talk about what happens when that income starts going up, because this is where it gets genuinely interesting. Let's say someone, call her Maya, starts her career at $45,000 a year. She's 24, she rents a modest apartment, she drives an older car, she watches her spending carefully. It's tight, but she manages. 3 years later, she gets a significant raise. She's now at $65,000. Her take-home goes up by maybe $1,200 a month. And for a few weeks, possibly a few months, things feel lighter. There's breathing room. The anxiety dips. But then something starts to happen. She moves into a slightly nicer apartment. Not extravagant, just nicer, because she can afford it now and the old one had its issues. The rent goes from $1,100 to $1,450. Her car, which had been getting unreliable, gets replaced with something newer. Car payment goes from $0 to $480 a month. She starts eating out a little more because she's working longer hours now and she's earned it. She upgrades her phone plan. She buys a few nicer things. None of this is reckless. None of it is wild. It's just a normal, reasonable response to earning more. And yet, 18 months after that raise, her financial stress has returned to almost exactly where it was before, because her expenses expanded to meet her new income. Almost perfectly, almost automatically, like it happened on its own. This phenomenon has a name too. Economists call it lifestyle inflation. The more colloquial term is lifestyle creep. And it is one of the most quietly destructive forces in American financial life, because it doesn't feel like a mistake while it's happening. It feels like you're finally living the way someone with your income should live. And that feeling, that sense of, I've earned this is appropriate for where I am now, is exactly what makes it so hard to see clearly. Here's what's underneath it, psychologically. Humans don't experience wealth in absolute terms. We experience it in relative terms. We experience it by comparison, relative to what we used to have, relative to what people around us have, relative to what we feel we should have given our job, our education, our stage of life. The technical term for this is social comparison theory, developed by psychologist Leon Festinger in the 1950s, and it remains one of the most durable findings in all of social psychology. We are wired, at a deep level, to calibrate our sense of adequacy against the people around us. And in the United States specifically, this wiring gets activated constantly and aggressively. American culture is unusually status visible. Cars are visible. Homes are visible. Vacations get posted on social media. Clothing brands are legible. The neighborhood you live in sends a signal that everyone around you can read. And whether anyone is consciously thinking, I need to keep up with my neighbor, the comparison is happening anyway, below the level of deliberate thought, shaping what feels like a reasonable way to live. The American Psychological Association has reported for years in its Stress in America surveys that money is consistently the #1 source of stress for Americans across almost every demographic. Not health, not relationships, money. And in more recent data, that stress is not concentrated only in lower-income households. It shows up significantly among households earning $75,000, $100,000, even higher. Because stress is not caused by your income level. It's caused by the gap between what you have and what you feel you need. And in a culture that relentlessly expands what need means, that gap has a way of staying open regardless of how much the income grows. Now look, there's a number that sometimes gets thrown around in financial conversations. Some version of the idea that you need to earn around $75,000 to $100,000 a year before more money stops, making you meaningfully happier on a day-to-day basis. That number comes from a well-known 2010 study by Daniel Kahneman and Angus Deaton, and it got widely cited in a way that kind of distorted what they actually found. A more recent study from Matthew Killingsworth in 2021, and then a collaboration between Killingsworth and Kahneman in 2023, found that well-being actually continues to rise with income well beyond that threshold, but with important caveats. The gains slow down. They become less predictable. And for a subset of people, particularly those who are already unhappy or under significant stress, more money doesn't move the needle much at all. Here's what that actually means in practice. For most people earning in the $50,000 to $90,000 range in the US, the psychological benefit of earning more is real but fragile. It can be almost entirely absorbed by lifestyle changes, social comparison, and rising expectations before the person even fully processes that their income has gone up. The raise happens, the budget adjusts, the baseline resets, and 3 months later, the new normal feels just as tight as the old normal felt. This is sometimes called the hedonic treadmill. You walk faster, but the scenery doesn't change. The experience of financial adequacy doesn't improve because the standards for what counts as adequate keep rising alongside the income. So what do you actually do with this? Because I want to be clear, this video is not just an explanation of why your financial life feels difficult. That's not enough. Understanding a trap doesn't automatically free you from it. So let's talk about what practically changes things. The first thing is what I'd call setting a lifestyle floor, not just a budget. Most budgeting advice focuses on tracking and limiting, which is fine. But the more powerful move is to decide, intentionally and explicitly, what your standard of living is, and to defend that decision against the automatic pressure to upgrade it every time your income goes up. This is not about suffering or living below your means as some kind of moral exercise. It's about recognizing that your lifestyle will expand automatically if you let it, and that expansion will consume any financial margin you gain. So the question isn't, can I afford this now? The question is, do I actually want this, or am I buying it because it signals that I'm doing okay? The second thing is understanding the difference between financial stress and financial danger. These are not the same thing, and treating them as identical makes both worse. Financial danger is when you genuinely cannot cover essential expenses. Financial stress is the anxiety, vigilance, and cognitive load that come from feeling like your margin is too thin, even when, technically, you're covering everything. Knowing which one you're actually dealing with changes what the appropriate response is. If you're in genuine danger, the priority is income, debt restructuring, and immediate tree-off. If you're experiencing stress in the absence of actual danger, the work is more psychological. Building an emergency fund that gives your nervous system proof of stability, automating savings so the decision doesn't have to be made every month, and actively reducing the social comparison triggers that keep recalibrating what enough means. On that emergency fund, behavioral economists generally suggest that the psychological benefit of a savings buffer kicks in well before the 3 to 6 months of expenses that financial planners traditionally recommend. Even $1,000 to $2,000 in a dedicated account that you do not touch changes how the brain processes financial uncertainty. It's not the amount that matters most. It's the existence of a buffer. It signals to the threat detection system in your brain that there is some slack in the system. That signal is surprisingly powerful. The third thing is getting specific about what your financial anxiety is actually tracking. Most people who feel financially stressed have a vague, generalized sense that things aren't okay. But if you ask them to define what okay would look like, the definition is fuzzy, or it keeps moving. That's a sign that the anxiety isn't fully connected to a specific gap. It's more like a background state that has become habitual. And one thing that actually helps is making the implicit explicit. Write down, in concrete terms, what financial security would require. Not wealth, just security. What number in savings? What monthly surplus? What debt paid off? What specific threshold, if you crossed it, would make you feel genuinely stable? For a lot of people, that exercise reveals that the threshold is actually reachable, but it's been invisible because it was never defined. And invisible thresholds have a way of feeling permanently out of reach. Now you might be thinking, all of this sounds reasonable, but isn't it just telling me to think differently about the same hard situation? And I'd push back on that, because reframing without action is just positive thinking dressed up in psychology language. The behavior piece matters enormously. The automation piece matters. The actual dollars and cents decisions matter. But behavior is driven by perception, and perception is driven by the psychological frame you're operating inside. If you believe, even unconsciously, that you will never feel financially secure until some external number changes dramatically, you will keep outsourcing your sense of stability to a target that keeps moving. If you actually understand, that the gap between your income and your sense of security is partly structural and partly psychological, then you can start working both sides of it instead of just grinding harder and waiting for the anxiety to naturally resolve. Here's the thing about financial stress in America specifically. It is not an individual failure. The median income relative to median costs has been squeezed steadily for decades. Housing costs have grown far faster than wages in most major metro areas. Healthcare costs have risen faster than inflation for 30 straight years. The social architecture of American life, suburban geography that requires car ownership, healthcare tied to employment, student debt as the cost of professional opportunity, creates structural financial pressure that exists completely independently of any individual's choices. Acknowledging that is not an excuse for passivity. It's just accurate. And accuracy is a better starting point for making real decisions than the alternative, which is carrying a private sense of shame about a situation that is, in many ways, genuinely structurally difficult. What you're experiencing, that feeling of being not exactly broke, but never quite stable, is real. The math behind it is real. The psychology behind it is real. And the people telling you that one more raise, or one better budgeting app, or one more cup of coffee cut from your morning routine is going to make it go away are either not telling you the full story, or they don't understand it well enough to explain it. The path through it is slower and less dramatic than most financial content pretends. It's building margins that actually survive lifestyle inflation. It's being conscious enough of social comparison to make choices that reflect what you actually value rather than what signals the right things to the right people. It's creating just enough buffer that your nervous system stops treating every month like a survival problem. And it's being honest with yourself about what you're solving for, not the number on your paycheck, but the actual experience of feeling like your financial life is stable enough that it doesn't occupy your attention every single day. That's the goal. Not rich, not retired at 40, just stable. Just a life where money is a background consideration rather than a constant foreground threat. And if nobody has told you recently, feeling financially stressed on a normal income doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means you're living in a country where that experience is, statistically, incredibly common. The Federal Reserve's 2023 report on the economic well-being of U.S. households found that 37% of Americans said they would struggle to cover an unexpected $400 expense. Not $4,000, $400. And these are not all people in poverty. Many of them are people who look, on paper, like they're doing okay. So if your income isn't low but your life still feels tight, that's the thing this channel is going to keep digging into. The psychology behind it, the behavior behind it, the structure behind it, and what actually changes things, without pretending the answer is simple or that the problem is just a lack of discipline. If this landed for you, subscribe and leave a comment below. Tell me what part of this matched your experience, because I can almost guarantee you're not the only one watching this who felt that recognition in the first 3 minutes. And if you know someone who earns a decent income but still can't seem to get ahead, send them this. Because sometimes the most useful thing is just having someone name the thing you've been feeling but couldn't quite articulate. I'll see you in the next one.